vote. Oh, roll call, yeah.
Bass.
Here.
Beitler.
Here.
Fox.
Here.
Heck.
Here.
Petrick.
Here.
Kaufman.
Here.
Clock. Here. Palmer.
Here.
Rissmiller.
Now I'm looking for a motion of acceptance of the minutes. So moved. Roll call.
Petrick.
Yes.
Beitler.
Yes.
Heck.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Clock.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Fox.
Yes. Moving on to 4.0, Mr. Heck.
Approve the following financial reports for June as listed below, 4/1 through 4/12.
Clock second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Beitler.
Yes.
Heck.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Clock.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
Petrick.
Yes. Any citizens or students wishing to address the board pertaining to agenda items only? Seeing none, we're going to keep moving. Reports and recommendations of the superintendent, Dr. Nesbitt.
Okay. There are a number tonight. The first item up is the middle school, high school renovation project. The bids, we opened the bids on June 12th or July 12th. And we're here to present them to you. We're going to take a look at where the base bids came in, where the alternates came in, hopefully make some decisions tonight, and then there is a resolution on the agenda to then award those bids. Tom and I also have then for the board discussion as to where we are financially and how we should finance this project based off of the federal ESSER funds, financing, and taking out capital reserves for the project. So I will turn it over to Mr. Straub to present kind of where we landed and where we are with the actual bids and alternates. Did you turn it off? No. I don't think so. There it is.
Give me a second, everybody. It switches over.
You're smiling, so this is good.
The technology works. Okay. So we've got a PowerPoint that's going to go through the bids here tonight. And we're going to work off this master spreadsheet, but then we're going to break it down. I'm giving this as sort of a summary, but then we'll break down pieces of it and talk through how the bids were received, since this is a little bit hard to read just with all the information. But just some overview. We'll be looking at that blue section sort of across the top. Those are the bid results compared to final estimates. In general, it changes a little bit because we had a lot of deducts and we had a lot of add alternates, so we controlled things on bid day, but generally we're within 1%, and we are gonna look at that closer, blow that up so it's easier to read. Then we're gonna go through the alternates, which is the lion's share of what you're seeing up on the screen. Just to sort of, we tried to color code it, or Kelsey did actually, as we were going through the bids last week, and then we talked about them for about, give or take, I don't know, about an hour after bids were received. With the administration and some senior board members. What you're seeing up on the screen is these are all the alternates. If they're grayed out alternates, we were not recommending them after the discussion with everybody last week. recommending the red alternates coming out of that meeting. So really, at the end of the day, we were only recommending unclassified construction. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The marquee sign, essentially electronic sign out in the front of the site, and then some aluminum feeders, and we'll go into more detail about that. There's a change even from talking to the administration, as well as us and Fidavia and the geotechnical engineer and the civil engineer. We're going to make a change tonight and not recommend the unclassified construction, and we'll go into that in more detail. Okay. So really, we're only going to be recommending 3 of the alternates, whether they were add alternates or deducts from last week. Okay. So we're going to go into the individual contracts. So there's 4 contracts. General construction, we only had 1 bidder, Lobar Inc. They had bid last year. So what you're seeing is their bid of $37,900, and then all of their alternates across it. We have quite a few, both add alternates and deducts that you can see. Sort of right under the number of each, it says whether it's an add or a deduct, and then those amounts. Okay, and moving to HVAC construction, for the next 3 we had much more competition. So we had 5 bidders for HVAC, Tri-County Mechanical, actually both the HVAC and the plumbing, as we're going to talk, but the bids were very tight, from 9.3 to 9.7. A couple, North Bay also just over 10 million, so they were very tight between them. And I would note, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this right to start off. We have spoken to each of these apparent low bidders. They have confirmed they have 48 hours to withdraw their bids. If they had any errors, that time is passed. But all 4 of them are good with their bids after discussions, which everybody was pretty competitive. So there wasn't like we had one number that was extremely low. For plumbing construction, we actually had 6 bids, so more competition in the plumbing than anything last week. And again, Tri-County was also low for the plumbing, but there was some you can see there was only a couple $100,000 jumping to 2 and 3. So again, they didn't leave much on the table. And then we had electrical construction, Pagoda Electrical out of Reading was the apparent low for electrical. And so instead of having 4 contractors, essentially you're going to have 3 bidders. You're going to have a general, if obviously if the board approves this evening, I should step back on that, but general, 1 contractor will handle both HVAC and plumbing, which will help with coordination in the field, and then 1 contractor for electrical. Okay. So this is sort of an overall analysis, and we did go through the detailed cost estimate with the administration just as an update. But generally, you can see the low base bid for both for the general HVAC, the plumbing, and the electrical is the first line. Then is the estimate, and then what the delta is. Somebody had asked this: is that's just were they above the bid or below it? So the general was $1.5 million under budget, but then HVAC, plumbing, and electrical were all 3 were high. So at the end of the day, it averages out. You see the very far bottom right. Essentially, it was 1% variation from the estimates. I should note that, and we also even looked at bids from last year just as for comparison. An example would be plumbing and electrical. We were using the bids from last year that helped give a lot more detailed information. Plumbing was $5 a square foot higher than it was last year, and electrical was $5 a square foot higher. So that a lot of those 2 were an example of where the anomaly was. At the end of the day, because general was low, it all generally evened out. Okay, and this is without taking the deduct alternates for the project. Okay, so I'm not sure that we're going to go through all of these the alternates, but maybe we'll talk about some of them, some of the more critical ones. Unclassified construction, what that is does the contractor own rock or not if they hit it? And we always bid this so that you can see what the true price is that the contractor is identifying. And then what we do is talk to the civil and the geotechnical engineer. And frankly, all of us were having that discussion last week. It's $369,000, but when we speak to geotechnical and civil, they do not appear to believe that they will hit the $369,000. I believe Davies that they had even done a takeoff that if both of the stormwater ponds were all rock, we would only hit $450,000 roughly.
From like the full depth of it.
So, and it does not appear that there is rocks in those locations. So it's minimal. So the recommendation, I think, in talking to the administration would be to not approve that and remove that as one of the alternates for this evening. Okay, I'm talking about that one a little bit more because we're going to be recommending that one.
Is there any,
So I was told that there is a specific size, like machine, that classifies that. What is it in their spec that classifies that? Like a site contractor told me that, let's say, a 60,000-pound trackhoe has to be able to rip that rock. What is our spec for that in that bid, or what was?
I apologize, I don't have that information on me.
Okay.
It's right this.
it's anything that measures 1 cubic yard or larger would be considered rock excavation. And then they also have an amount of horsepower at the flywheel for an excavator.
Okay.
So that's what our spec is.
Where the retention ponds go, is there any core sampling done?
Yes, there was. Yeah, and I think we had both the building and the ponds, we only had one location that we had some rock. One of the advantages is a lot of the locations is fill already, so we should not, and that's what was identified, that likely we will not hit that. Again, we're open for discussion. I should note that the unit prices, so what happens is, if you accept this alternate, then it's the contractor's problem and responsibility for construction. This alternate is really about risk. Is it the contractor's, if you make it the contractor's risk, $369,000. If we make it school district's risk, then we use a unit price to track those quantities, which is monitored by an engineer in the field. So it's not the contractor just saying what the price is. The only concern, and I mentioned this to the administration, is that construction prices have gone up substantially, obviously. The numbers are much higher than they were 2 or 3 years ago. But even with those numbers, from the takeoffs, it should be fine.
And you should know with the unclassification, that's to lines and grades, so like subgrade or bottom of trench. So if you hit unsuitable soil at the bottom of the trench with a footer, that's still going to be a change order. That unclassification alternate wouldn't cover anything beyond those points.
So we got really complex on.
Well, I think our discussion, Tom and I and Matt, was where that tower's going, that was already disturbed back in '97 when they built the junior high, and that whole bank was all filled. You're not going that far deep to put a footer in that tower. And then even where the 6th grade classrooms would go, that's a slab. I mean, we're not putting a foundation there to put a second story on. So, I mean, the disturbance that we're excavating is extremely minimal on that whole project. Probably where we would hit any rock that we would think might be in the stormwater in that field, but
we're always cautious about this alternate. Essentially, what you're probably hearing is the geotechnical engineer, the civil engineer, the architect, and the construction manager. I don't want to speak for anyone who doesn't agree with that. Essentially, everybody's saying, we believe it, don't take this alternate, but let's track it as a unit price during construction. Okay.
If it was all new construction, I think it'd be, and we're doing mostly renovation, and not a lot of square footage new construction, so you're not
stadium project with the underground retention there. That was all diggable with excavator, and that was coming from that site contract.
So what we would recommend is if you do not take this alternate, then just, we will earmark some dollars in contingency, essentially 369, we'll just track against it during construction. Because you're probably likely going to get some. You know, if you get 100,000 or 200,000, you know, it was a smart decision for the district. There just is some risk of, we've seen districts where you get doubles, you get double the amount, and it's hard, it's sometimes hard to, you know, unfortunately, we're trying to make the best decision possible.
So it's really hard shale, that's hard to dig, that requires a larger machine to be determined to be rock, right? It doesn't just have to be a big limestone in your ground.
No. So, you are correct. The specifications. Okay, so we talked about that. We're not going to talk about all of these as much. I do want to talk about the second one, the additional classroom. And we're not recommending the deduct for two reasons. This is a deduct alternate for 3 classrooms that we could take off the building. Quite frankly, educationally, you need those 3 classrooms, and it's going to give you flexibility in the building. But here's a financial way to really justify it. Bids came in, if you combine the 4 primes, the average is $293 a square foot across the board for the building. This was at roughly $380,000. It works out to $108 a square foot. You're essentially getting square footage for a third of the price of the rest of the building. You will never get that price. You know, essentially that's an incredible deal. So you need that space educationally, and you're getting it at a very good price because you're getting it a third of the price that it should be. So, you know, that is not being recommended on both cases. Go through the next ones of these quickly. The loop road, that's something that's will substantially needed on the site just for circulation. Repaving the site at the end of the project. These will stay in the project since they were deducts. And then the next few, you might want to discuss some of these, but synthetic turf, tennis courts are not preliminarily recommended. 30-year roof warranty, we have a base bid for 20 years, $460,000 is pretty high. Some of these others were more the VCT flooring or the existing locker room or locker painting. These were really set into the project that if we needed to pull dollars out, we could. You can see if you add up all these deduct numbers, it adds up to, you know, quite a lot of dollars if you would need to take the cost out of the project. The next one, the fiber cement panels right there in the middle of GC11. If you remember, last year the contractor offered like $1 million to switch from metal panel to a cement panel. So we decided to have that as an add or deduct alternate on bid day. Everybody was surprised. Instead of being a savings to the project that was offered last year, it's actually would be an add of $370,000. But that lets us know that we got a firm price on bid day. So, then the next few, just, you know, some equipment in the gymnasium that we could have taken out. We're going to talk briefly about the courtyards. Yes?
The fiber panels, is that more because steel dropped or they went up?
I can't completely tell you that.
Because it's metal, it's steel otherwise, right?
The base bid is steel. And last year, the contractor had said if you switch the steel panels to this fiber cement, it'll save you $1 million. Now that same contractor is saying it won't save you money, it'll cost more to use those panels.
I know the cost of steel will come down some.
More than likely, I don't want to say for sure, but yes, probably the steel panels have come down. Also, Kelsey, you had mentioned we went with a more economical steel panel. We tried to do some research and we tried to value engineer everything we could and possible. The flip is, and this might be part of it, the fiber cement company was bought out internationally, and they changed the company, so the pricing may have changed. I can't say for sure, but that may be part of it. Okay. The next is the courtyards. I'm going to go through 2 slides for that. This was some discussion last week. We could take $330,000 out of the project for courtyards. Essentially, these are paved areas and seating areas that you can do sort of outdoor classrooms. So 4 locations, and then here's just a zoom in of those 4 locations. So it's quite a lot of concrete to do it at 4 locations, but it does give you that ability for students to be going outside. If you would remove these from the project, it would just be grass at those locations. Okay? So I think the feeling coming out of that meeting was to not accept this alternate and keep it in the project as, as an opportunity for the students. But again, if you need to reduce cost, that's $330,000. Okay. Photovoltaic array, we spoke to the electrical engineer. It's a 20-year payback for that, so it's great. I think we all want to be environmental and sustainable, but it appears it's a 20-year payback, so it doesn't seem that that's readily. It's not like it's a 5
That stuff might not last that long. It might be.
It's usually panels are warranted for 20 years. Everybody's discussion is the last 25 to 30 years. There is very limited maintenance on that. For you, they probably would pay for themselves, but 20-year payback is quite a long time. If it was a 5 or 10-year payback,
If there's more history on it, it's better, but there's not a whole lot of history about 20 years.
yeah. So I mean, that would be if you.
And how much of our electric supply would it cover, actually?
It's not as substantial. It's about 5% of the building. It's not, it's not. So, lighting controls. This is maybe one that it's not a cost change, but I'm sorry the administration did had some follow up. Probably we are going to recommend that EC7 would be selected. It's a 0 cost change. It's to go with Acuity. The base bid was Wattstopper. These are just basically 3 companies, and the bidders said there's no cost variance between the companies. So what we tried to do is give you the ability to select which company you want to go with. Okay. We're not recommending the intercom. We are recommending the 2 aluminum feeders, and that is switching from copper to aluminum. We're actually starting to see this on a lot of projects anyways. But we just wanted to have this an alternate, and if you combine those 2, it's about $250,000 savings. It will have no effect on the education of the building, so we are recommending that in the project. And then we are not recommending the Cat6 or the cable tray, and we are not recommending the other manufacturers for Nexus and Bryant. So I'm sorry, I tried to go through those and not. There's a lot to discuss there, but.
Did you hit on the sign, the marquee sign?
Yeah, I'm sorry, for the marquee sign, Kel's jumped in, but essentially that's just to have an electronic sign out at the street, which is becoming very common with large schools, which gives you the ability to change the messaging very quickly. Obviously, it's tied to the office, but it's $50,000 or $51,000, so very often we do make that.
That's not just the sign, is that accurate? That's some brickwork and stuff like that?
So the base bid does include just the standalone static sign with the district name and the campus information. The add alternate is the actual 2 screens, dual-sided screens that go on top, on the one side. So without it, it would still look okay aesthetically. It's just that provides that interactive.
Then it just becomes a static sign. Unfortunately, there's electronic signs, quite a lot of cost to them. So.
And we have priced those out for the other buildings, and that is pretty competitive for what we priced before. They had asked that the elementaries were looking at them. I at some point. And that's about where that cost is.
Seems crazy.
When we vote on this, are we voting, how are we doing it? One, like 9.03, 1A? Are we doing one, all one?
It's all a resolution.
All 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Yes.
What if we want something separated out?
Well, I think actually, I've been talking to us, we're going to separate out a little more.
Okay.
This is not going to, this is something possible, not for sure, but possible, so we'll probably just separate out a little more. All put together and everything.
Like if I want to pull the courtyards out, so that's separate, so we'll do that.
Well,
Doesn't matter all I have.
I guess
This is an alternate.
I guess probably what you should do is decide what alternates you want, so you can package up the resolution.
So you talked about the loop road. Are you planning on doing that or not doing that? I didn't understand.
I'm sorry, yeah, and please ask questions because I did go through this quickly. Yes, the project includes the loop road right now.
Okay.
So that's 69,000 if we would remove it from the project. So that's keeping it in,
Right.
which $69,000, if you try to come back and do that 5 years from now, you're never going to get that kind of price.
No, I was gonna say, like with the loop road, they're already here.
Right.
And that's why you're
That's
getting,
why
that's
there's
why
not-
you're getting a competitive price. They're already stripping, they're already grading that area. Their heavy equipment's, they don't have to mobilize.
Right.
The courtyards, can we put that to a change order, or does it have to be approved? Can we reject it here and make it a change order possibly? Like if we wanted to do two that way and leave 2 green and grow started.
Probably look at Mr. Boland. Historically, my understanding, if it's an alternate and you don't approve it, we can ask the contractors to hold that price for 90 days, and then you can decide to select it. But if you outright do not accept an alternate, you can't add it back in by change order at a later date.
Well, you can't add it back in at that price. You can add it back in, but you make it a different price for it.
So you just need to be prepared that that price could change.
So we could technically,
But if you change the scope of it.
yeah, we could technically table that, hold that price for 90 days. If I'm understanding you right, hold it for 90 days, go back to that contractor and say, hey, we want to do, not up there, but this one and this one, and these 2 we want to let for our students to do garden or whatever the administration's vision is. Is that, and then decide from there?
We don't do it all the time, but I have over the years.
Right.
It just
And
seems
then
like a
if
lot
they-
of money to do. I mean,
If they say no, or they say, well, it's
And most
cost
of-
200,000, then we just say we do one or we don't do any.
That
That's
doesn't
just
change
my
the
thought.
scope of the
Maybe-
project.
Maybe I'm only one.
That doesn't change the scope.
Well, we're just kind of putting it on hold. So, if I'm understanding it right, we can put it on hold and not vote on that alternate.
But I'm only one vote too, so maybe the rest of the board wants to do it.
So,
How much of this is hardscape in this project? That's hardscape? That's what you're doing in there? You're putting-
they're hardscaping, there's also a lot of landscaping, not a lot of landscaping, but there's.
Does it provide less maintenance ongoing than as it is right now? Because I know we spend a lot, well, we don't spend a lot of time on your work like.
Well, I mean, obviously you're gonna have, it's a substantial amount of concrete, versus having the whole thing grassed. So, you are still gonna have some maintenance
Yeah.
in there. So, obviously, we're not concreting, all 4 of them completely.
Can I ask what your thought process is, Bill?
I kind of like to see 2 old state green that grow trees and bushes and shrubs. And you can still put benches and, the mulched area out if you want to take plantings out. But $330,000 to me to have 4 outside classrooms, which I won't get used all the time to begin with. We had 2 of them that we can do. I can back it up, but I'm not really sure what 4.
You get one over towards, I don't even remember where they're exactly placed, but get one of them over towards the cafeteria and gym that could be overflow and have
So
events that they can go outside.
This would be near the cafeteria, and then this, this is by the cafeteria, and this is more over by the gyms, obviously. So,
I mean, that's just my thoughts. I mean, like I say, if the rest of you guys are fine with it, go ahead.
So there are trees and shrubs like in there or not? Is that what
Yes.
the circles are?
Yeah, those are roughly placed in civil drawings.
So right, this here is grass, or is, this is grass, this is.
No, the white is like.
The white is
White
the-
is-
yeah,
Okay,
white
so
is
this
the
is
concrete.
concrete, this is grass, there's a good bit of grass and
And there's a lot-
areas to do stuff in already.
There's there's a lot of landscaping too, which is something you could look at once you award the contract if you wanted to tear down.
that was Kelsey, we just had a sidebar. Kelsey said you could just leave it in the project, and then we could ask for a deduct change order, or credit change order, during construction from the contractors. That might be cleaner. So, again,
Like I said,
you could separate it out as a separate motion. If you did want to, take 90 days to think about it, I'm pretty sure the contractors would be willing to, they're just looking for the project to move forward, quite frankly, right now. So you're in a good position to say,
that's why,
give us 90 days.
that's why I'd like it separated out, because I don't want to hold up the project, but I would like to think. But I mean, like I say, if the rest of the board is fine.
What are the thoughts on the digital sign? Does the administration, would they like to see that?
So when I came as principal, on my desk sitting there was a packet of all electronic, like, quotes that they had gotten over the years. It is something we would like to have at each of the buildings. It's just, sometimes it becomes cost prohibitive to put 3 electronic signs across the board. But like at a high school, like to me that, it does allow a lot more ability to advertise events and get our signs updated and
On the flip side of that, the high school's not along 183 either.
Yeah, you could have the basketball game going there, you could have a musical, you could have, hey, the snow makeup day coming up, and basically, you see all 3 events.
501 gets a lot more traffic than New Shaperstown Road, and that'd be more beneficial, or as beneficial as, Penn Burnville or whatever, because they're 2 main roads.
But I guess to what you guys are saying, as maybe it's not just for people driving by, as our students come to school and our parents drop them off and whatnot, it reminds them of upcoming events.
Matt doesn't like going out with sticky things.
I don't do it the secretary, but I know they don't like it.
Mike Leaster used to do it. Mike, me, Chris,
Many
and
times you
kids.
drive by and it's, snow makeup day would be Monday, February something, and it's April. Maybe not like that. A week or 2.
Matt, are you going to program a digital sign from your computer right there?
I'm sure I would be involved.
The only thing that I will say along the courtyards are, we're at a point where we're now trying to convert our courtyards at both elementaries to usable space. And so, because we don't want to do it, because we don't want to spend $330,000, we're trying to figure out how do we put stone dust and landscaping, and we have somebody at Bethel who's volunteering their time to do it, and use pools of money to do it. My recommendation, or my thinking is, I realize that $330,000 is a lot of money, but we have an opportunity to do it. Like, part of why we don't use those courtyards and able to do anything with them is we're restricted with the equipment we're able to get in there. We had to remove trees and grind stumps out. We had to hand do them. We couldn't get stump grinders through the doors. I mean, basically, all those windows are coming out. Holes are being made in the door, in the walls. We have an opportunity to do what we think we can do now, and do it right, because we're never gonna be able to do it for that cost.
Are them doors and holes in the walls only because of doing the courtyards, or are they gonna be no matter what?
All the
We'd
windows
be-
get replaced in that.
Yeah, and this is the
Aren't
time
we
to do it
using one
because
of them courtyards as a through fair too?
Won't become cafeteria.
yes.
Yeah, but isn't a through fair to get somewhere else during construction, like we're going through the cafeteria?
That's the, I mean, without getting real detail with the phasing plan, this is the time to do it. When the contractors come in, correct, they're going to be replacing all windows. Essentially, they're going to be stripping the building down, redoing finishes, so you're not worried about going over finished, floors, damaging them, or ceilings. It's going to be very easy to get that equipment in and out of there. And you are going to be in that situation that the superintendent just mentioned of do it now, or if you would want to do an equivalent courtyard in the future, you're either not going to do it, or you're going to spend and that one's off the cuff, but $500,000 to $600,000, you're going to spend substantially more, because how do you get all that equipment and concrete into the building when it's not just under construction?
If we would use them, we've heard we need air conditioning, so everybody's comfortable. How are we gonna take them out in the courtyards, or just today's where it's what temperature? That's why I'm thinking, is like, they're gonna get used. I almost spent $330,000 to find out it's too hot out there, there's bugs out there, no one wants to go in them, and then Matt comes back and say, hey, we're maintaining these all the time, we spend X amount of money. I just don't want that to happen. You guys are telling me that this is great, you're gonna actually use them?
I'm in favor of two.
Yeah.
Chris, do you think kids will use them? Do you think they'll be?
They already started, I mean, life skills is already out there, teaching kids how to plant those corn, you can do raised beds, you can do, I love the idea of kids going out there, possibly overflow from lunch. There's a little reward system, you want to eat in the courtyard, that's something you can earn. I definitely think the science classrooms will take full advantage of it. Right now, it's kind of tough to use, it's a single door, you're funneling your class in, by the time you get something started, you gotta go back and hit the class, but if it's open space and it's already all right there, ready for you, I definitely think our teachers will utilize it.
But also on the flip side of that, using that space for class like life skills or whatever, it is still a closed space. You don't have to worry about somebody wandering off. It's still right there, and it's still a safe space. That's what I see as some benefit.
Rather than heading out like out towards the park or
Yes,
something, you know where your kids are.
That you're still, yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of maybe what?
Separate it out. I don't think it's a big deal to separate it out.
I think they count who's in favor, who's not. I say let them in, I'm in favor of all four.
Definitely two, I would support four.
I would support four. I'm for the direction now.
I support that one.
I'm gonna go with Chris made some valid points, so I support it.
You want to? What's that? Well, if we hold here, then maybe we can hit some of the financial stuff and then kind of show you where we're headed from here. So financially, there's basically, in the sheet here, you have option A and option B, but option A is grayed out because we're recommending that we don't take the unclassified construction. So when you look at where the base bid, so you're looking at option B, the blue and white. The construction base bid taking and not having the unclassified in there, you're at $63,570,743. And then the alternates we're recommending is the marquee sign, the aluminum feeders, and the changeover to the lighting control for acuity instead of watt stopper. Matt did some research with our current lighting supplier, and they indicated that acuity is a better support, better overall quality, and at a neutral cost, it makes sense to take that as an option. So the alternates we are recommending actually bring the project down $200,000 as deducts to $63,370,743. Now, when you factor in soft costs, we're estimating somewhere, and these are rounded up just based off where Jeff was. I think Jeff's soft costs are somewhere at 3.7, 3.8, is that?
Yeah, we had some variation, a little bit lower than what you're seeing on that.
So we're at 4. If you do construction-related soft costs, that would include the contingency. It includes testing, utility fees, regulatory access, commissioning, asbestos monitoring, etc. 4% brings us in at $2,534,829.72. Non-construction related at 14%. Some of this is driven up because of the costs of redesigning the building. So that is factored into this. That construction related does have a little bit of a higher contingency based on the fact that we're not taking the unclassified construction. So it does, Tom and I were going back and forth on numbers and kind of decided 4 and 14 made the most sense. The 14% includes furniture. It potentially could include some financing fees. And then there are the design fees, surveying, a lot of the engineering costs, food service, and some of that, most of that we have paid for already. That brings soft costs at about $11.4 million for a total project cost of $74,777,476.74. So then we were looking at, kind of backwards, to figure out how much of the financing or bonding we would need or recommend. We've already incurred expenses of $5,111,998.14. Those are already soft costs that we've paid out, most of them dealing with the engineering firms, any kind of permitting, the architect fees, etc. We know that we will be pulling from the ARP ESSER at $2,132,244. That will all go to HVAC. And then if we were to float a bond at $63.5 million, then we would pull from capital reserves a little over $4 million, $4,033,244.60 roughly, to get us to that financing piece. Now there is a little bit of a wild card here. When we float the bond, that money will go into a construction account. And there are conditions to which we can earn interest off that money. And Tom and I were going back and forth, what number do you use right now? There's interest out there at 4, there's interest at 5, there's interest at 6. But historically, anytime we have hit a high in our interest, it has been quickly followed a year later by record low interest in our account. So it spikes, goes flat, spikes, goes flat. So we're not sure where that wild card on interest lies and how you factor that in. And that's a little bit more that we have to kind of do on our end. What's a safe bet number? The other option is if there are any of those alternates that you wanted to pursue at a later date, you could potentially use the interest earned from the bond to do that. So we do think that $63,500,000 could come down based off of where we fall in interest and where we want to take money out of capital reserves. We project that by the end of when we reconcile the latest audit, we should be somewhere about $10,300,000 in capital reserves. Pulling a little over $4 million does leave us at $6.2 million. We have a roof at Bethel we got to look at. There is some minor renovations here that we're doing on the unfinished side with adding some space.
All capital reserve, is that capital reserve, we still have the money in the field for the fund, I mean, for the field?
That is all just capital reserves.
Just capital reserve, the money's still there to do the turf field.
1.55.
What's our, right, at the present time, what is our projected debt service cost per year?
With
At
this
60,
one?
at 63.5 with the current interest rate.
$4.4 million.
That's all the debt service, and what are we paying right now?
Well, we have budgeted 4.6, maybe 4.4. Paying 2.4 right now. No, that was last year we paid 2.4, down to 800,000.
When will our
1.6 million. We
When
lost
will-
800,000 out of our, this year, we'll lose another 800,000. If we did nothing, our 2015 bond we paid off next year, that would come down another 800,000.
From
So-
4.4
No, you,
down to, from 5.2 to 4.4.
So we were at 2.4 million.
Yeah, no, I
Bond.
understand, but if you take 800, but if you're going to 4.4, then we lose 800. Or is 4.4 all in?
4.4 is the 63.5, that's all in. That's.
All in, so that's the old
27
bond
years.
and the new bond, so
Yes,
total debt service.
Yes.
Yeah, they're wrapping it around our current debt.
Gotcha.
total debt service.
Okay. When will we can make our first debt service payment on that?
April,
So it'll be in
And
next
it'll be-
budget.
yeah, and it'll be interest.
And you got a budgeted interest at 4.4 million.
And principal and interest is budgeted right now for this year at 4.6 million. So it's going to be less than we have budgeted. Actually, the first payment is going to be way less than we have budgeted.
So could we, knowing all that, could we shave that bond down to like 60 million?
I'm not sure about 60, but it could be come down, because we are going to make a principal payment in this fiscal year, because it's too late. We're not going to get it until October. Typically, you make your principal payments in the fall. So we're looking at paying just an interest payment in April. So,
So between that and the interest that we could earn,
That and the 6.2 million in capital reserve, even if we had to touch another million, I think we should use at least half of what we have in capital reserve towards the project, because it's money that we save towards the project, not necessarily save for the future. I would look at least at 62 or.
How much is budgeted?
yeah, it's possible. I'm saying that in the interest earnings, again, there's interest at 5%. Again, let's say just using round numbers, 5% of, if we get 5% on our money, and we're only paying 4% on the bond,
Yeah, but
we
you're
can't
paying,
earn more than 4%.
you're paying much higher bond now than we would have 2 years
Oh,
ago.
right.
And if we can refinance in 5 years, or
8
5 or
years.
8
It'll
years.
be 8 years.
I mean, we can get, hopefully get a savings there at some point that can help soften that cost that we're paying.
How much is budgeted to go back into capital reserves?
500,000 a year. That's for the general fund, and that's for basically Matt's 5-year capital projects plan. That's in the budget every year, 500,000.
is that Matt's plan or is that the old plan?
It's being reworked.
It's reworked, but
And so that should be technically money in, money out. Now, it doesn't, we have not spent up to that 500.
And with that debt service payment, what do you see for taxes over the next 5 years?
I see it being stable. I mean, I don't see an increase. There's definitely not an increase in the horizon with this scenario. As it stands right now, it's 63.5 at $4.4 million. That's $200,000 more, less than we're budgeted, we
Yeah.
planned on. So
Yeah.
that's a good cushion.
I'd rather see us use at least some more out of capital reserve, because that's the main reason, because if we don't use more out of capital reserve, Danny will be here yelling at us.
Well, my only
But
question.
I agree 100% with Danny that we can use more.
Right.
I agree too.
My only question would be, when does Bethel plan to get repointed? We talked about brickwork that needs to get done, and that's going to be quite expensive. So depending how cash your capital reserve builds, you don't want to take too much out, you're going to have to repoint that whole building.
Which I thought, didn't we do that?
We already did the entrances.
Yeah.
And the library is sealed.
It wasn't as extensive as it was
No,
first pitch.
There's some of the old parts of the building that will need to be repointed yet.
There's a couple of corners there.
Right, yeah, that's sort of like the gym
Yeah.
area, yes. That will need to be repointed, but it wasn't as big as originally thought. But then the guy doing it gives great price on it. So.
That's something we can work at. No, we don't have to have the whole building.
No,
No, it's just gonna be those older sections that will be repointed. We are gonna work on trying to seal a lot of
I was
it,
gonna say, you can seal some of it.
and then just repoint stuff that.
So the reason we're able to pay this without a tax increase, which of course no one wants a tax increase, right, is warehouse row, right? The increase in earned income.
Earnings and tax.
The average person in our school district, the average house is making more
Yep.
income.
That's true.
And transfer taxes, because real estate's selling for more.
Well, the transfer taxes, that's a wild card. Some years it is a good year, and some years it isn't. So if you have commercial properties to sell, that's a good year. If you have a warehouse to sell, that's a great year. But the houses that are selling, that's not as significant as that.
It has to be commercial property.
Yeah.
Right.
So I hear what Bill is saying. You're recommending, you guys are recommending this option here. What's the, like I'm all for keeping savings because you never know what happens, but is there something you're envisioning? Like, Bill, like you want to take more of this because it's been put away.
But we have a substantial, we've never had, I mean, years prior, we never had 6 million, even 6 million in capital reserves. You're down to 5 million, you still got a decent capital reserve. You know, move more with that, I think most projects you would have over the next 5 or 8 years. So, I mean, beyond 5 or 8 years, you don't know anyhow. I mean, everything's falling apart after 8 years.
I'm just wondering if they're picturing something else that we're not, or is.
I don't know, Dan.
What was the Penberg over?
A little over $1 million.
So Bethel's a lot more square footage. Let's just say it's double that.
So Bethel has 52,000 square foot up there is what will need to be replaced. It's 82,000 total, 52, I think, 57, 50, something like that, Hank, needs to be replaced. So,
And the other third is under warranty for another 7.
yeah,
What do we do with Harville?
we ripped everything off.
I don't know how many square feet. We're not going apples to
That's part I don't have, sorry.
We're not going apples to apples, because some of them just steal the numbers. Even if we just say it's cost twice as much as
It
we're
would be
doing,
1.3.
and it's 2 million. And it's happening next year. Worst case
Based on
scenario,
the current.
has to happen next year.
So 1.3 million is what, 50 some thousand.
2,000. Roofing's gone up a lot.
And then 7 years later, you're replacing the other half, the other third. And
That's
that's
just when the warranty runs out.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
it should last longer and longer and longer. But you don't know that.
5 million is still a big number.
And we're gonna be adding to it every year till then.
I'm with you, Bill, that
I think we gotta use more. I don't think we need to borrow 63.5.
If you do the math, 63.5 is like 85%. We're only putting 15% down. That's not enough.
And there's enough built-in contingency with the project that you're not gonna need the additional, something's not gonna come up in.
If we take the bond, we have to take it, or can we just roll it right back in? How does that work?
You got to take it all, you have 3 years to spend it, and then you return it. Oh, we can extend it,
But if you take the 63, it's not like a line of credit where you just draw down what you need. You'll take the whole 63.
Oh, right. And with that comes the interest that's earned on it, and then the resolution is drawn up so that we can spend it on other projects, any project that makes recommendation. So down the road,
But can you, if you would get to the end of the project, and you got $4 million left out of that 63.5, can we make one payment on the bond with that?
only after 8 years, I believe.
So basically, if you take it, you're using it, you're paying interest on it.
After it's called, yeah.
I misunderstood when they talked about it before, I thought we could roll that back in.
So we ran,
Well, the other thing was in the resolution about paying ourselves back for the prior costs. So the interest that we earned could go against the prior costs, which would then be able to be put in capital reserve, back to capital reserve.
But you're still using taxpayer money.
All I use.
I think that's part of, I think our hesitation is the unknown of what, I mean, we know the projects, we know the roofing project. You know, in the future, within the next 5-10 years, we should be looking at window replacement, door replacements at some of our buildings. You know, those are projects that are long-term. What those costs, I mean, I don't think they're gonna be millions of dollars to replace doors, but when you get into doors and windows, probably.
But we can, I mean, some of that stuff we can budget and phase. If you spend $200,000 a year to replace windows, you can probably fix that in a couple of times. We gotta look at it that way, because there are times, I mean, we've been very fortunate last 10 years, but there are times we're gonna have to cut back. I think this is one place to start without financing ourselves to death. I mean, I don't know, it's an awful high bond payment to be
So before my time, when we started putting away $500,000 a year, was that in anticipation of the building project?
No, that was pretty much, there was
Just a budget surplus?
No, that was budgeted money that went in there for the capital, the district 5-year maintenance plan. You know,
Vehicles,
certain things that had to be,
I would say the last 5 years, we had our eyes on this project, though, put
Yeah.
money for that, at least the
Yeah.
last 5 years.
And that's where,
I sat here many of nights from this corner of the room where we're putting this money away, we gotta make sure we use it. Now we gotta make sure we use that money we put away. I don't know, I think we should pull at least $2 more million from capital reserve and that interest towards the project. Rest will be.
okay, that, we've approved a resolution for the bond, the parameters resolution. Brian, we're within, the 63.5 is within that parameter resolution.
Yes.
So anything below that is within it.
Correct.
So that can be decided at any time, how much we're going to borrow.
Oh, okay,
That's
we
not-
don't,
that
that's
doesn't have anything with what we're doing tonight.
all that over.
We're not voting on it.
Yeah,
Not the
Brad,
bond.
Brad,
Building, yes, the bond now.
you know, our financial advisors from PFM and Mark Quinn are available. They come to the next meeting, we can hash it all out again.
How soon do we gotta put out a bond? Because it takes a while to get
It takes a while, it's not, I think the bonds,
We already have DCED approved.
right, so they're talking, in August, we would do the preliminary paperwork for it, and then we would sell at the end of September. So the bond sale would happen at the end of September.
You do your preliminary official statement, then your official statement, then get the bonds out, circulated, get them sold. So you're probably talking 45 days, 60 days to get them sold.
60, they're talking end of September would be the bond sale there.
we could vote on this next meeting.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything to that.
No, the bond amount is not something that we were talking about today. We're just giving you this information to show you that it's within reach. And we can make the decision how much we need. And if we bring professionals in to talk about it with the markets.
Rich, you want to take back to the finance committee, kind of meet, delve into that a little deeper? Let's do that.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I just have one quick concern. I can look at this now, just, the aluminum feeders, I think that's the right way to go with that.
Yeah.
I just question like the longevity of the aluminum with the copper.
I don't know what you guys do, I don't know.
Is that what everybody's doing, it seems to be holding
I
up?
think we're starting to see it used more and more often. I mean, copper is always the way to go. It used to be the way to go. But the industry is changing, just like we've seen in plumbing, going from copper to, plastic PEX piping is now starting to become, huge revenue. So we are seeing that, but we still make it an alternate. I have no issues approving that. And that's only for really sort of your more large meters throughout the building.
I just want to make sure, like, looking at the building from a long-term perspective, I don't.
Yeah, we would not recommend that if it wasn't something
Okay.
that's going to create a problem for you down the road.
Thank you.
So just so, not to belabor anything, but just to make sure that we have this, we would accept GC 9, the marquee sign, but reject the others under general contractors. We're rejecting all alternates under HVAC. We would be rejecting all under plumbing. We would be taking EC7, which is the lighting control, the acuity, and EC9 and EC10 that do with aluminum feeders, and then we would be eliminating all of them. What then that would do is, based off of that, it would bring the project construction to $63,370,743. And we'll have these numbers ready to read. And then there is an alteration we do need to make to that, correct, Brian?
Right, yeah, we just wanted to add, it would, after the last and further resolved, and subject to the submissions, certificates of insurance naming the school district as an additional insured on a primary and non-contributory basis.
I'll take that as that. And then I'll get a printed form. Okay. All right, the next item under my report is, we wanted to follow up from the last board meeting. There were some questions in regards to some of the acts that are out there, a little bit on the literacy pieces, and so we just wanted to hit a little bit for clarification for the board, and kind of give everybody an idea of where we are with some of this stuff. So between Tim and I, we'll be brief. So talk fast, Tim. All right, so as far as responsive literacy, the one thing we want to hit is, within this presentation, Tim's going to talk to you a little bit about all the different philosophies that are out there. And unfortunately, I think as we all know, there's not a one-size-fits-all for everything. And so where we want to hit is, there was some acts that were thrown out there, Act 45 and Act 55. Sometimes it's a little confusing because every year there's an act of this or an act of that that comes out. There's been multiple Act 55s over the last couple of years, or Act 45s that talk about school safety. Each one makes a tweak of the next one. So Act 45, to give you kind of a high-level glance, all teachers are expected to have extended or professional learning under what was called Act 48. A couple of years ago, PDE came in and said Act 45 is something that principals, superintendents, assistant principals need to complete. In lieu of the Act 48 credit, they now say that we have to do 180 hours of Act 45 or PIL courses every 5 years, which is PA-inspired learning. And so school leaders are required to have these different components a part of it. You'll see there's 8 different components there. You should have this presentation in your packet as well. But this is something that myself, Dennis, all the principals have to do as part of a requirement by law. And it's all geared towards school leadership. 2 years ago, the state passed Act 45, which deals with accelerated learning. Both Act 45, 2 very different laws. One mandated 180 hours of generic leadership training. This one was in response to us being in COVID. Schools closed during the 1920 and the 2021 school year. So the state came up with what they called Act 45, accelerated learning. This was available to all administrators. It was only extended to administration. It was based off of 30 hours and 60-hour increments. The intention of it was to get schools acclimated to returning to in-person instruction. This was not something we participated in, because when we came back in the fall of 2020, we were in person. We were coming back 4 days a week. In fact, a lot of the districts in the county came back into the buildings, and a lot of the districts in the county did not take advantage of it. But this targeted 8 different areas that were linked to the areas of that previous Act 45, or different levels of leadership. The whole purpose of Act 45, accelerated learning, was to get the learning back on track, so to speak, to get administrators refocused for the learning objectives as opposed to all the COVID stuff that was going on. So similar in nature, but 2 very separate times that they were passed. Act 55, and this deals with structured literacy specifically. Act 55 is one of those bills that they pack as much as humanly possible into the bill and pass it. The law actually starts out talking about school safety, and at some point segues into literacy and structured literacy. But it's all geared towards teacher preparation programs. And so the state, and a lot of it deals with lobbyists, lobbyists have lobbied, or the organizations with the most money, got the ear of PDE and the state to put in place structured literacy training programs for teacher prep programs. And that's what Act 45 deals with. Its intent is to teach teachers how to do reading instruction, and it's grounded in both the structured literacy and the intervention services to address students' deficiencies in reading. It clarifies that schools may choose to participate in a program to provide training as reading coaches to support teachers in delivering instruction. So current school districts could opt into this program, but what the law eventually said is PDE, Department of Ed, must create a program or a standard or guidelines for colleges, teacher prep programs, to create programs. And it was not directed at the school districts per se. Everything was, in 2022, PDE was required to provide a professional development program for structured literacy. That is for teacher prep programs. And then another component of it is participating school personnel wishing to be coaches must now have 5 years of experience. So if people were grandfathered under, now there's a little bit more restringent requirement. One of the big components to this is that the state has lacked over the years is recognition of dyslexia. This puts dyslexia at the forefront. For a very long time period, the state wasn't recognizing that as a legitimate disability, and it now takes a shift. So there are a lot of positives to the structured literacy program and that that spotlight on those aspects, but at the end of the day, it is intended to create teacher feeder programs so that kids coming out of college are understanding and learning how reading instruction should be delivered. And you can see, it identifies specifically what that training has to be addressed. Part of that is also then talks about professional development that school entities will eventually need to work in and continue. You can see it has to be an evidence-based intervention practices, explicit and systematic instruction, the alphabetic principle, decoding, fluency, vocabulary, and reading comprehension as well. And then PDE needs to develop guidelines. So within that law, PDE is the one that will drive this, develop those guidelines and standards for those components. And if you go on their website, there are the standards to which that. It's about a 15 to 20 page document that outlines specifically what those areas are. And again, the systematic explicit instruction, as they define what structured literacy is providing a strong core of foundational skills. And that's what the whole premise of this is. In the areas of listening, speaking, reading, spelling, and writing. And so what I will tell you is, are we adopting a structured literacy approach? No. But Tim will kind of go through where we've come as a district, what our approach is going to be, and why. So he'll provide a little bit of the research to that, and then where we're headed as a district on that.
Do you mind if I sit here so I'm not standing in the back of everything? Okay. So, yes, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the district's approach and the plan. As Dr. Nesnick said, the math and literacy plans that I presented 2 meetings ago, the full plans run in excess of 100 pages. So I was trying to condense those presentations down into something a little bit more manageable, but because there were questions, important questions that were raised, I did feel like it's important to get a little bit into the details for this meeting. So if you haven't heard before, that there's the reading wars. So this is an ongoing debate, but as we started our presentation, our approach is around responsive literacy, which is not a term that's being thrown out, at least to my knowledge yet, so I'm thinking about we should trademark this one. That's where the theme for tonight's going to land. So a lot of what goes into the reading wars is about essentially the place of phonics within a literacy program. So the National Reading Panel, which was convened in the late 90s and then wrapped up in the early 2000s, identified 5 pillars that support literacy instruction. And those are that first row there where it says the 5 pillars. They're phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. The yellow column there is constrained skills, because those are things that are readily teachable, but they are finite. Once you've learned them, that's it. There's no more to be gotten out of them. Whereas on the right, extreme right, those are unconstrained skills, that they represent very large domains of knowledge, and that they gradually grow, and they continue to grow ad nauseum. They don't stop growing. There's always additional layers to be added. So when we talk about the place of phonics, and when we talk about kind of the reading wars, what's going on, it really lands hard in that constrained skills category and how you approach those early literacy skills that then lead into all the others. So when we talk about phonics, the debate comes down to essentially the approach to phonics, or lack thereof, depending on what we're talking about. So there are 2 basic approaches to phonics instruction. One of them is synthetic, the other is analytic. So if we're teaching phonics synthetically, then our approach is we're teaching letter and sound correspondence, and then you synthesize them together to make a word. So we would learn that the B makes B,
A makes A, T makes T, and then we blend them together, book, act, and then we say, okay, I know the word bat, that's bat. On an analytic approach, you're teaching more a combination of using larger sound units or known words as an analog if you hit a word that you don't know. So I know the word big, and I know the word rat. So when I hit the word bat, my attack is that I know that big starts with B, and that makes a B sound, and a rat has AT at the end, and that makes an act sound. So I put those two sounds together, B, act, and now I've got bat. So two approaches to arrive at the same conclusion. Just a brief timeline for the reading wars, and I'll explain why I did this in a second. So we're going back to 1960s with this, that in the 60s, Gene Shaw at Harvard kind of came out with results showing that a synthetic approach to phonics was producing better results than what was being done up to that point, which is essentially trying to teach whole words, like just whole word recognition. From there, moving into the 70s and then mid-80s, there was a shift into a more analytical phonics approach, where once children have memorized enough sight words, they're able to do some of that breaking apart of words and putting together. But despite criticism, it became relatively popular. Then in 85 to 97, this is what created the crux of the reading wars. Whole language method was used in that time period, which focused on reading whole words and didn't really give any at all attention to phonics. And that was problematic. Hence, 97 to 2020, the National Reading Panel concludes that systematic phonics is the best method for beginning readers. They also concluded that the best time for that phonics instruction is at the K1 level, and in that time period you had balanced literacy, which has gotten a bad name in the reading wars here. The idea of balanced literacy is that you are using a blend of phonics instruction with a whole language kind of comprehension focus and analytic phonics together. That's what made it balanced. You're doing both. And then more recently, we've had this shift hard back towards synthetic phonics and structured literacy, as Dr. Netzig mentioned. So what does that all mean? The law, as it's written in Act 55, and the National Reading Panel's recommendation is that it is systematic phonics that needs to be in place. And systematic phonics, they defined it as decoding instruction that is employed in a specific phonics curriculum. So basically, you can't just wing it and hope that kids learn phonics on the fly without paying it explicit attention. It did not conclude that one particular sequence or one particular phonics approach or curriculum was better than another. And it did conclude that children learn phonics differently. So a one-size-fits-all approach does not work. So for us, it leaves us with, okay, so what do we do? Synthetic or analytic? And the point is that in terms of research, synthetic phonics has typically scored higher on early measures, but that the difference is not statistically significant. So there's just as much chance, that random chance, that kids score higher as there is that it actually made a difference using one or the other. So it is not conclusive. But basically what we can take away is that if we're being responsive, if a child is having difficulty learning the phonics, it needs to be simplified. A synthetic approach is the way to go. If they're having difficulty applying that phonics instruction, their difficulty reading or difficulty spelling, then it needs to be complicated, and an analytic approach is more appropriate for that child. So how do we proceed? We approach this as, in the words of Shanahan here, that the idea of combining the two approaches does not violate any research norm, and if done well, should help more kids to succeed. Additional research would say that the adoption of both is it's not so much an either-or decision that you have to pick one or the other, but it's more the question of when and why do you use one over the other, and that's that being responsive piece to kids' needs. Just as a snapshot here, this is the NAEP data, national level data for reading. It goes from 1971 to 2020. You notice that despite the trends in that timeline of reading, of we're going to do it this way, no, we're going to do it that way, there is not a great deal of movement on that line until you hit 2004, at which point those scores, 220, 220, 221, 220, those are statistically significant higher than what they were in previous years. So when we were in that spot of, we had recognized in terms of balanced literacy, we need phonics, we need comprehension, we need all 5 of these things, that's when the bar started going up. So despite all the other ups and downs, relatively static. So all of this comes down to when we talk about the term settled science gets tossed out there with us a little bit, and in reality, science is never settled. Science is always our best understanding in the moment. So I'm going to use a metaphor to discuss this portion of it, and I'm going to use pizza. So when we talk about research, and how I know, and how we do this, descriptive research tells us things like if we're going to study what is the best pizza, descriptive research is going to tell us, well, it has flour, and it has yeast, and water, and olive oil, and garlic, and tomato, and cheese, and basil. If I'm going to do prescriptive research, that means I'm going out there and I'm trying to find out from the people that are making the pizza, what are you doing? And that's where I'm going to find out from a number of places, well, we do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. So it's not quite as scientific anymore because it's now a little bit more fluid. So that descriptive research is our basic quantitative research a lot of times. It deals in nouns, it deals in skills, the what. This is what reading is. It's phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. The prescriptive end of things is the applied science, the verbs, the actions. How do you do those things? And that's where you have less definitive conclusion. So we have a ton of descriptive literacy research. You've got Gallon-Tunmer's Simple View of Reading, you've got Scarborough's Road, you've got the 5 pillars of the National Reading Panel. These all tell us kids need these things to be able to read well. And those are the 5 things that are basically what they need. The prescriptive research, there is no, this is the right way to teach those 5 things. That's a pizza, that's a pizza, that's a pizza, they're all pizzas, they're all made differently, they all have the same ingredients, but the way we got there is not the same. And I like thin crust, my wife likes Sicilian, they're both pizza, they both have the same ingredients. On the prescriptive end, what we do have are things like this. Things like Camborne's model for learning. And Camborne identified these 7 things that ultimately just lead us to kids need to be doers when it comes to their education. I specifically would draw attention to, I'm not going to go through all of them, but specifically draw attention to the right side there, demonstration, approximation, response, and employment. That says that in order for kids to learn anything, literacy, it doesn't matter what it is, they need demonstration. They need to witness and engage in the process of whatever it is that's being learned. So the teacher must demonstrate. They must have the chance to approximate, to attempt to do what you just did. And it will include failure at first, probably, and increasing success. They require response, so a teacher or someone else to be able to provide them that feedback of, you were successful at this part, not at this part, you need to do this now, so that they're able to then refine. And then the opportunity to employ, so take the time and the opportunity to practice whatever it is that's being demonstrated. Same idea, right-hand side. In order for learning to fully take place, they need the opportunity to transfer what they're learning into new situations. Kids need to be able to talk about and reflect on what they're learning. They need that chance to do what I just said about approximating and receiving response and employment in that application piece. And they need the chance to evaluate. And that means self-evaluation. They need to be able to see, this is where I am, this is where I think I am, this is where the teacher says I am, how closely are these things aligning, and this is where I'm supposed to be going. So our literacy plan, how does all that kind of filter into our literacy plan? Number one, we want to learn from history. So somebody did an analysis of the frequency of the use of the term science of reading from 1700 to the year 2008. And you can just see the peaks and the valleys that I was describing earlier. and that pendulum swinging. So our hope here is that we are insulating ourselves from the absolutism of no, this way and this way only, and no, this way and this way only, and taking that kind of middle ground that we know what we need to do approach. This is the descriptive theoretical framework that will inform everything that we're doing moving forward in terms of literacy. This is much more recent. It's from Duke and Cartwright from 2021. It's called The Active View of Reading. It includes the elements that make the simple view of reading and Scarborough's wrote what they are. The word recognition piece at the top, the language comprehension piece at the bottom are the crux of what those science of reading pieces focus on. But it includes that active self-regulation piece, which no other framework has before. And it includes it first because without those things, nothing else matters. If kids are not motivated and engaged with what they are doing, none of the other things matter. If they don't have executive functioning skills that they can attend to what they're doing, none of it matters. So those things need to happen first, then they can happen, and together they result in successful reading. So our responsive literacy approach is that we want to make sure we are balancing the science of teaching with the art of teaching. The knowing the what, the 5 pillars, the active view of reading, the mastery of those elements for our teachers to be successful and then have successful reading across that literacy continuum, which is the more descriptive end, and combine it with the art of teaching, that knowing how, the mastery to be able to apply, this is what they need, and this is the best way to get them there on the more prescriptive domain. So it's trying to do both at the same time. That's why we have the focus that we do in the plan on the professional learning. That classroom teachers have to be able to have a command over both the science and the art of literacy. And that requires that ongoing job-vetted professional learning for them. And it allows staff members to navigate the constant flow of the new research through the lens of this is what we already know, and this is our past experience. How does anything new kind of filter through that? And again, to avoid those big pendulum shifts. And it's also why we have the focus on curriculum in that plan, that there needs to be that systematic piece, there needs to be a coherent skill progression, K-12, and a bank of vetted resources tied to those outcomes that teachers can go to and use. And also to ease that transition for when you have new staff members coming in, you have a strong curriculum that is able to guide them as they get started, and even existing staff members. When somebody shifts from teaching kindergarten this year to 4th grade next year, having that solid curriculum hopefully helps, and then having strong team members helps that transition piece. So bottom line, our responsive literacy vision, I highlighted the pieces that kind of tied in with what I was talking about prior. The reason that we have this vision statement using the word immersive is because immersion is part of Camborne's 7 conditions. Why we have the highly trained staff utilizing the research-supported instructional practice and the professional learning piece is because that ties back to Act 55 and our own philosophy around having that science and art together. Again, the communication ties back to Camborne. The well-articulated curriculum ties back to our own beliefs and the Act 55 requirements. The timely specific feedback, again, Camborne. And the instructional decision-making, Act 55. Ultimately, at the bottom, having the kids be doers is Camborne. And then at the very end there, that joy piece. We want kids who come through our district to choose reading. Not be assigned reading, to choose reading, and to choose it across their lifetime, not just because I have to do it in the classroom while I'm in this particular grade. So I tried to move through as fast as I could. Are there any questions as I flew through that?
So we're headed in a more proactive instead of reactive
That is the hope, yes.
direction.
That the point should be that if I'm the teacher in the classroom, we're going to be able to provide enough professional learning that you are absolutely confident in your own ability to say, I know my kids need these 5 things. And when I see Johnny doesn't have this piece, I know these are 3 things that I can do to get that piece. Susie over here, she's good on these. She needs to work on this.
Thank you.
transition over to Mr. Hammer. And you should have a copy of this presentation along with the actual plan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to move fairly quickly if we're all right with that. I'm going to hit the highlights, hit the bullet points, give you a very quick and precise overview of where we're at, where we were, where we're at, and where we're going. So originally we were designated 8 TSI, additional target intervention supports, back in 2018 and 2019. We were tagged with that designation from the state for 3 purposes: attendance, growth and achievement, and overall career readiness standards. I'm going to quickly walk you through as far as our growth data goes from a long-term perspective from 21 to 22 to where we are now. So what you see in front of you, the first column to my left is 7th grade PSSAs. Column in the middle is 7th grade PSSAs, 8th grade PSSAs, and the column on the right will be your keystone, either algebra, lit, or bio. So this is where we were in 2021, showing tremendous growth from where we were back in the red, back in 2018. Not all in the red, but yellows and reds. So now in 21, we're demonstrating some blues, we're demonstrating some greens where we're at. Green means we're on target, blue means we're exceeding, yellow means we need to do some more work, and red means significant work. So that's where we were in 2021, and now on 2022, we continue to demonstrate more blues in our algebra category, 8th grade math, and our 7th grade is starting to demonstrate some of the blues. We're going to switch over from math to ELA. This is where we were in 21 with our ELA. Again, 7th grade on the left, 8th grade in the middle, and the keystones on the right. Moving in the right direction, we are hitting our targets. Now last year, this is making a big shift into mostly blue in the 8th grade, all green in 7th grade, and making that transition halfway with our literature keystones. Science, this is where we were in 2021. Moving along from that, now we're transitioning to exceeding the targets in 2022.
What's white mean?
Not enough data. Yeah. So we have recently received, this is growth. So what I just showed you is growth. Students growing from one point to another point, they are growing. What I'm not demonstrating to you right now is actual proficiency. So did they make proficient or distinguished on the test scores? We just literally received our Keystone test scores back, and we are demonstrating growth in all categories. So kids are getting proficient and advanced higher than we were last year. So our ELA is demonstrating 6 to 7% growth. Math is at a 3%. And I believe our biology Keystone are at a 5% growth. So we're demonstrating proficiency higher than we were last year. I do have those specific numbers if you would like to know. We are actually far exceeding state expectations in our math for Keystones. So the state sets the goals of where we should be according to a 2030, and we are actually exceeding those goals as of right now in our algebra. Move on quickly to attendance. 2021 attendance rate. So attendance rate is different than daily attendance. If you want to go into the minutia of the difference, attendance rate is percentage of kids that are attending. Daily attendance is kids and how many absences they've missed throughout the entire year. So this is our attendance rate for 21-22. 23, we see an increase in free and reduced students. We see an increase in special ed, and we also see an increase overall 7 through 12. So the regular attendance, like I explained, that's the percentage of the school year the students have attended. So the special ed students were only attending school 71% of the entire school year. 81% for kids 7 through 12, and free and reduced were at 68.4%. That's the entire school year. If we go to last year, we do make some bumps, or that's 2021, I'm sorry, we do make some bumps. We go to 21-22, 22-23, I'm sorry. We see a significant jump in our special ed population, the 7 through 12 population, and a massive jump in our free and reduced population.
What do you attribute that to?
Some of the systems I'm going to go over here in just one second. Just to highlight on some of our discipline actions, because we do feel administratively we do need to have strong, consistent discipline in order for our students to achieve and attend. We feel kids need that strong structure in order to achieve and grow. Some positives on the left, we saw major defiance down 50%. We saw physical confrontations down near 50%, and obscenity and profanity down 20%. Some things that we still need to work on, we need to keep our eye on, is unauthorized use of electronic devices and disrespectful behavior. So those are things we need to watch out for. We have targeted one specific disciplinary action in our overall plan that I will highlight in just a second. So last year you saw this presentation. Sorry, go ahead.
What do you consider major defiance towards administration?
If we have a disciplinary action and I say, you know what, we're going to go do this, and you look at it and say, absolutely not, or there's some choice words in there, that's major.
Okay.
Yep. So, as I presented last year, two-pillar approach. We're approaching the academic side of things with a multi-tiered systems of support. When students start to struggle, we're going to catch them, we're going to get them the skills they need so they can come back into the regular classroom. We also have implemented a PBIS, a school-wide PBIS, positive behavior interventions and supports, for the behavioral component of our students. The behavioral component is also addressing the attendance component, making kids want to come to school on a daily basis and enjoy their time at school. So I'm going to quickly go through our PBIS program. What we do is, this is advertised all throughout the school, on all of our TV screens. We do a friendly grade level competition that we call the Tulpe Pride Challenge. Pride is an acronym following what the elementary schools, of some of the expectations we want from our kids. We have a friendly grade level competition where we look at attendance, discipline, and academics at each grade level. And kids have made a nice friendly competition and do get a little reward at the end of the quarter if they did win. 7th grade absolutely cleaned house this year. They did a phenomenal job this year with attendance, discipline, and academics throughout the board. But we set those expectations, we monitor, we track it, and we share that data with our staff and with our students. Tier 2, so if it's beyond the grade level, we're looking more at a small group of students, not yet an individual, but a small group of students. We have proactive presentations, and it's not coming just from admin, it's coming from students presenting to other students. Hey guys, we're seeing that this has become a problem. Here's what we're going to do proactively to move forward. We also have caring groups come in. The Caring Foundation comes in and meets with small groups. That could be substances, it could be behaviors, but they're in there meeting with our kids. And last but not least, we have a one-to-one mentor program. An upperclassman will take a younger kid in the middle school, junior high, and meet with them on a regular basis. They'll have breakfast with them, they'll have lunch with them, and just walk them through and talk to them about what's going on in their life. And we have seen significant impact from that. We also now have implemented our Pride Points, where the student is sharing those expectations and meeting those expectations that we set. They start to get 20 points, which they can spend on different reward items. And we have the Pride menu, which they get to pick, just like you go to a restaurant, I've got this much to spend, they get to pick on exactly what they like to spend on. Small, kind of low-hanging fruit that it's not a big cost. Student Council has, we partner with the Student Council that they actually pay for those, what they can spend with their Pride points. So it's not coming from kids, to kids, and back to kids. Measures of our effectiveness is we expect to decrease, and this is the discipline I was talking about, school-wide tardies. We did notice an uptick in our tardies this year. We will be proactively going after those tardies. We plan to reduce it by 12% from last year to next year. We will increase our Pride points usage, again pushing that positive behavior up by 10%. Our regular attendance, we will try to maintain 90% of our regular attendance, specifically identify our economically disadvantaged and our students with disabilities. We're also going to take another proactive approach by trying to decrease our chronically absent special ed students. We're going to be reducing that number of students who were chronically absent last year to next year by 12%. And school-wide targets again for 12%, and bi-monthly monitoring of academics, discipline, and attendance. So all this, data-driven decisions, we are monitoring. We're going to keep moving forward with those data points. academic side, we have the tier 1 level of instruction. So within your classroom, if you're a teacher, you have 5 kids that are struggling, you're the first line of defense. What are you doing to help those kids in your classroom who are struggling? From there, we have our tier 2 intervention. That's where we have our advisory period. That's where we have the specific targeted interventions built in. This year, we're expanding upon it a little bit more. We're bringing more kind of troops to the issue. We're going to have skill replacement intervention and kids in our bubble kids that are close to that proficient, that just need a little extra boost, and kids that need significant skill replacement. ELA, we're going to model the same exact things. We kind of listed out specifically the connections in OG and 3D and third quest for our tier 3. Tier 3 is much more of a small / individual isolation of what we need to really focus on to get you back to where you need to be. We've also implemented last year an early warning system. What that early warning system is it tracks student data, attendance, discipline, and academics from the moment they have been in Tulpehocken Trojan. It's tracking their data all the way K until they get to us, and it tracks their current data of their academics, discipline, and attendance, and gives us an overall rating. Are they at high risk, moderate risk, or low risk? And we use those data points, not necessarily as the North Star, but as another guiding point to help us make decisions to support students. Yes, sir?
Who monitors all that?
Myself, the district office, Aaron does a phenomenal job pulling those reports, getting it into our administrators' hands. So we then had to bring that data to our teachers, and we make multidisciplinary team decisions of how we could best support our students.
And back to the last one, I'd like to see next year how you did on them goals.
I'm sorry?
The goals that you said at 10, 12, and I think that next year I'd like to see how these are made out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as far as our identifying those kids that need to get to our proficiency rating, we are specifically identifying kids that need interventions. So we're not looking holistically at all of our students because we are making growth, we are raising proficiency levels. Now we're specifically looking at students who get to that point that they need intervention. And we are expecting growth from those students. We are actually expecting more than one grade level of growth from those students that hit the point where they need intervention. We're doing that for math, and we're doing that for ELA. And we're to do this through meeting with our teachers on a weekly basis, having face-to-face conversations. It's not just random data points. We're bringing this data to our teachers and helping them make data-driven decisions within their classroom and in their interventions. Some brief PD that we're providing to make sure our teachers have the tools they need. All summer we've been working on STAR and Freckle. We are going to be doing some in-person trainings from an administrative point of view. We're going to be doing quarterly learning walks. These are not supervision learning walks. These are just, hey, we're noticing some great things. Let's celebrate the great things that we're doing. We're going to be doing data meetings after every testing point. And ultimately, we are doing weekly multidisciplinary grade level meetings. I moved extremely quick. I know you guys have been talked to a lot lately. So I wanted to move quick and be very respectful of your time. Is there any questions that I could possibly answer for you?
One question.
Yes, sir.
So, just rounding off, 7 to 12 is about 86% regular attendance. If someone is at home for whatever reason and they sign on remotely, is that an absence?
Yes, sir.
So the 86% is it's present and in the
It is any absence. Sick, doctors, excused, unexcused, college visits. If you are not in the building, that counts for you. Yep.
Thank you.
Now, as far as our attendance goes, we're not going to take a kid for truancy if they're excused and they're sick. But that's how the state monitors us, is just total absences.
How does that, just wildly, how does that compare to other Berks County schools?
Our attendance is significant, is up. Our attendance is doing very well.
So you say
A lot of schools, just from speaking of the principals, and local surrounding schools, a lot of schools have really been tagged lately with their attendance.
So you'd say we're talking 25%, you think?
I would love to run that number, and I'd love to brag to you right now, but I don't want to give you any false information. But I can tell you, some surrounding schools are really struggling with attendance.
Good answer.
Do you think we could even get that information?
I was just curious.
I have to pull Future Ready from all the other schools. I don't know if I personally have access to it.
What do you think? It should be pretty, or that should be public data.
Yeah, I can look, I mean, it might not be right now, I could probably pull future ready from last year and kind of get a map of how close we are or where we're at.
It's okay. It just seems like a relatively low number. And if there's schools that are, in the 70s, which I'm certain that there are,
Yes.
I'm just thinking back as a product of coronavirus and students learning to be able to function from home and not want to come out of the public.
I'm going to kind of give you the glass half full response.
Sure.
I feel it's our responsibility as Trojans, as administrators, teachers, support staff, to create the best possible environment for our kids, for them to show up and want to show up on a consistent basis. We have this opportunity at Tulpehocken that a kid walks in, every teacher knows their name, the administrators know every single kid's name, and they have that environment. When you go, not pointing any schools out, but sometimes kids can be invisible in hallways, and teachers don't know who they are, they don't have a lot of friends. We have the opportunity, and I can attribute some of our numbers to creating that family atmosphere within our schools.
That's great.
And any absence hits these numbers, correct? So
Any actions.
if you're showing an animal at the farm show,
Yep.
that's a legal excuse in the state, it hits our attendance.
Yes.
So
Which
it's not just
we're tied
attendance.
because we support those things, we
Yeah.
want kids to do those things.
But actually, we consider that an attended day, don't we? It's a legal absence.
It's still an absence.
And we consider it a
We, yeah, as far as truancy and anything like that goes, that doesn't affect the kid. But the state still says they're not within your walls.
If it's something that we sanctioned, if it's our ag program, it would count as a school activity. But if they're doing it for their own personal, it would not count as a student, like as an attended day. And there's just goofy things like that, and that's where you'd be surprised, like how many different types of attendance excuses there are, all valid, but they just all hit our numbers.
I mean, I'd like to, the numbers would be interesting to see, but I don't think you should spend you got enough other things to do. I wouldn't spend
I agree. Don't let them look.
I kind of personally down here. But no, we're up here, so.
If it's easy to get, I'd love to know. I mean,
But you got enough other things to do.
but it's probably something we can research too, on our own.
Hey, showing off Tulpe is at the top of my list, so I would rather start diving in on that. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Chris. The only other item I have this evening is, it's more of an informational. The Harold E. Matthew Memorial Scholarship Fund is being established. It will be established outside of the school. It'll be held out in a community, what's that? Foundation out in the Harrisburg area. And Harold Matthew was a teacher, administrator, superintendent here for 30-plus years. Started his career at Penn Burnville, worked as assistant principal, and then as superintendent. And we just wanted to bring everybody's attention to that for the service. And I think in the obituary it did indicate that if you wanted to donate to that, the scholarship fund was being set up. And it would be one boy and one girl every year that the scholarship would then benefit here at Tulpe. And that, I believe, ends my report. Well,
We have a letter from Kristen Miller thanking us for her Board of Directors Award. If anyone wants to read it, it's there. She got the award and she's going to go and see her. Put it to good use.
She's a good kid. I know, she's a good kid.
All right, moving on to items for board action, I'm going to have Mr. Heck take care of these just because a lot of it attributes to the building budget.
So we have 9.0.1. Approve the addendum agreement with substitute teacher services to include driver education services.
Second.
Any comments?
This is to make sure we get this works for Pat's later then?
Yes.
Okay.
So he is already on board it with them. It's just our approval, and then tomorrow we should be able to start him in the process.
Okay. Just for Darnless, is he gonna help substitute you?
Yes.
Cool. Any other comments? Roll call?
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Approve the agreement with Keystone Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services for certified interpretation services as presented.
I'll second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Okay, and you should all have the new motions for 9.0.3 and then 9.0.4.
So, question on that. I had asked earlier if you guys are including the loop road or not, and I thought I got an answer that yes, it was included.
Yes, it is.
But now this says that you reject the following alternates.
It was a D out.
Sorry?
It was a D out.
Okay.
So we're rejecting the deduct, take it out.
Oh.
It's in the base bid.
Got it.
That was the D, we took it out. That's-
Okay, got it.
So I'll summarize this is 2 pages long. So 9.0.3, it's resolved that the Board of Directors award construction contracts for the renovation and additions of the Tulpehocken area middle school and high school to the following contractors in the amount stated herein and subject to conditions. Number 1, general contract to Lobar Inc. of Dillsburg in the base bid of $37,941,000 to accept the following alternates: GC9 marquee sign at $51,100, and to reject the following alternates: GC1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and to accept the general construction unit prices as submitted. Total general construction contract to be $37,992,000. Further resolved that the proper officers of the Board of Administration here are authorized to do all things necessary for the approval to proceed. Further resolved, Crabtree, Rohrbaugh and Associates, along with the school district solicitor, be authorized to issue all letters of intent to the contractors, informing them of this action and requesting submissions of complete and proper payment bond, performance bond, insurance certificates to the solicitor for approval. The letters of intent are conditioned upon receipt of final approval from all regulatory agencies. The legal sufficiency of bid forms, bid bonds, payment bonds, performance bonds, and insurance certificates. And be it resolved that upon the solicitor's approval, proper officers and the board are hereby authorized to execute the contracts and authorize the architect to issue the notice to proceed, and subject to submission of certificates of insurance naming the school district an additional insured on a primary and non-contributory basis.
So moved.
Heck, second.
Any comments?
I'll make one. I think we're still paying too much for what we're getting, but in this environment, I don't know that we're gonna do better. I mean, it's, unfortunately, I think it's still too much, but I don't know that it's gonna change anytime in the near future, so.
Any other comments? Roll call?
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Abstain.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck.
Yes.
And 9.0.4, resolve that the Board of Directors award construction contracts for the renovation and addition of the Tulpehocken area middle school, high school, the following contractors in the amounts stated below. Mechanical contract a construction contract to Tri-County Mechanical of Coopersburg, PA, in the base bid of $9,338,000, and to reject the following alternates: HC1, HC2, HC3, to accept the mechanical construction unit prices as submitted on the bid, for a total mechanical construction contract of $9,338,000. A plumbing construction contract to Tri-County Mechanical of Coopersburg in the base bid of $6,622,000, and to reject the following alternates: PC1 and PC2, accept the unit prices for a total plumbing construction contract at $6,622,000. An electrical construction contract to Pagoda Electrical Incorporated of Moulton, PA, in a base bid of $9,669,743, to accept the following alternates: EC1 lighting control acuity at no charge, EC7, sorry, EC7 lighting control acuity at no charge, EC9 aluminum feeders at a deduct of $205,000, EC10 aluminum feeders at a deduct of $46,000, and to reject the following alternates: EC1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, and 13, to accept electrical construction unit prices for a total electrical construction contract of $9,418,743, and to reject all other bids. Total construction contracts in the total amount of, from general construction, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical, of $63,370,743. And further be resolved that the officers of the board and administration are hereby authorized to do all things necessary so that the approval may proceed. And be resolved that the architect, Crabtree, Warbuck and Associates, and the district solicitor be authorized to issue letters of intent to contractors, informing them of this action, requesting submission of and proper payment bonds, performance bonds, insurance certificates to the solicitor for approval. Letters of intent are conditioned upon the receipt of the final approvals from all regulatory agencies, legal sufficiencies of bid forms, bid bonds, payment bonds, performance bonds, and insurance certificates. And be it resolved that upon the solicitor's approval, proper officers of the board are hereby authorized to execute the contract and to authorize the architect to issue the notice to proceed so construction may begin, and subject to the submission of certificates of insurance naming the school district an additional insured on a primary and non-contributory basis.
So moved.
Thanks, second.
Any comments?
Yes, I'll ditto my comments from the last motion.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Clock.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Box.
Yes.
Hedrick.
Yes.
Feiler.
Yes.
Heck.
Yes.
Bats.
Yes. All right, moving right into finance, Mr. Heck.
9.1.1. Approve the following lunch prices for the 23-24 school year. Elementary lunch $2.65, an increase. Secondary lunch $2.90, an increase. And adult lunch $4.10, is a 20 cents.
Bob second.
Any comments? Roll call.
So if I could just, real quick, there is a formula, and I think I put this in my notes, but if I didn't, it seems odd that we're not increasing students but increasing adults. It is actually a formula that is requiring us to increase the price. So we are, for all intents and purposes, mandated to increase that by 20 cents.
You can't get McDonald's for
You can.
twice of that. so. Any other comments?
Roll call.
Clock.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Box.
Yes.
Hedrick.
Yes.
Feiler.
Yes.
Heck.
Yes.
Bats.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
All right. 9.1.2. Approve the 23-24 cafeteria budget with projected expenditures of $1,040,000 and revenues of $1,040,000 as presented.
Bob second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Palmer.
Yes.
Box.
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
9.1.3, approve Clover Farms as the milk supplier for the 23-24 school year.
Bob second.
Any comments?
Yeah, I'd like if we could add to that, they could supply whole milk in the building. And my comment to the federal government is inappropriate for this meeting.
Second.
Any other comments?
I'm dead serious on that. You don't want to hear what I gotta say about this.
Roll call.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
9.1.4, approve the copier printer lease proposal with the Edwards Business Systems.
Bob second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
All right, we're moving on to policy, and we'll have Mr. Heck take care of this tonight.
9.4.1, give the first reading with the intent to give second reading and final approval on August 15th, 2022, the following policies, I'm going to say as listed.
Bob second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
9.4.2, delete the following policy, number 310.
Bob second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
All right, moving on to 9.5, curriculum. Mrs. Clock.
9.5.1, approve the attached list of the Ag Advisory Council members for the 2023-2024 school year.
Excellent.
Any comments?
The only comment I have is that they need to do a better job of notifying, because I don't even think I got notified about an ag advisory meeting last year. So I think Amy will. Any other?
would you like me to email her and request that she do that?
I think she'll do it. But
Okay.
yeah, we need to make sure she does, because I know some other ag advisory members that didn't know about it like last minute.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
9.5.2, approve the 2023-2024 ATSI plan for the high school and middle school as presented.
Excellent.
Any comments? Roll call.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Right, moving on to personnel, Mr. Palmer.
9.8.1, I move that we approve the following resignations as listed there.
Excellent.
Any comments? All those in favor give a consent saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, no. Motion carries.
9.8.2, I move that we approve a childbearing, child rearing leave of absence for Caitlin Bryce, coordinator of special ed, assistant director of pupil services, from approximately 7/10/23 to 10/15/23.
Excellent.
Any comments? Roll call.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Bats,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
19.3, I move that we approve a medical sabbatical for Douglas Mosley, English teacher at the high school for the first semester of the 23-24 school year.
Peg second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock.
Yes.
9.8.4, I move that we approve the creation of an Act 93 position for Director of Athletics, Student Activities, and Community Relations, along with the job description attached.
Peg second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes. 9.8.5, I move that we approve the elimination of athletic director extracurricular position.
Peg second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
9.8.6, I move that we approve the following employments. Trevor Brown as Director of Athletics, effective July 1st, 2023, at a salary of $85,000. Heather Bolts as a 7th grade mathematics teacher, at a salary of $84,200, effective at the beginning of the 23-24 school year. Molly Coots as an elementary school counselor at Bethel Elementary, at a salary of $56,213 at the beginning of this school year. Tyler Boyer as a learning support teacher at the high school, the salary of $80,859, effective at the beginning of the 23-24 school year. McKenna Ryan as a long-term sub-teacher for grade 6 at Penver Elementary from the beginning of the 23-24 school year through approximately November 28th, 2023, at a salary of $52,993. Brianna Weist as an elementary ag teacher at a salary of $52,993, effective beginning of the 23-24 school year. Emily Bevins as a part-time lunch recess aide at Penburn Elementary at an hourly rate of $15, effective at the start of the 23-24 school year. Tiffany Meyer as a full-time custodian at Bethel Elementary School at an hourly rate of $16, effective 8/1/23. And Tiffany Regal as a part-time autistic support educator at Bethel Elementary, an hourly rate of $16, effective July 17th, 2023, and some of them are pending completion of paperwork.
Peg second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Feiler,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
9.8.7, I move that we approve the following supplemental contracts for the following extracurricular positions as listed there.
Peg second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Heck,
Yes.
Betts,
No.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
No.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes. 9.8.8, I move that we approve the following substitute classified staff, event staff for the 23-24 school year.
Peg second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Heck,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Feiler,
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to administrative reports. Mr. Hemmer.
So I'd first like to acknowledge and praise and shout out all the hard work that the custodial crew has done under the circumstances. I mean, if you get a chance to come to the building, they have literally moved every piece of furniture out of the rooms and put it into a gym. I mean, the work that they did is phenomenal, and they're still polishing floors, cleaning them out. I mean, the work that they do is phenomenal. Another big shout out to our secretaries, our admin assistants. Now they're starting to get extremely busy with all the shipments of the supplies that are coming in and diligently working through and making sure that those supplies are into our teachers' hands. We are at the point now where we've scheduled our students' advisory period, so we are all ready to go for our students to come in. I know it sounds crazy, but it's right around the corner, and it's an exciting time. That energy starts to build up when kids start to walk through the doors. So we are getting everything prepared to make sure our students have a phenomenal first day. Thank you.
Mrs. Tinney.
Hello. I will echo what Mr. Hamrick said about our custodial staff. This is my first summer in a school building, and I am amazed by the work that our, Danielle and her team are doing at Penn-Burnville. So thank you to them. It has been really quiet in the building without staff and students, and we miss having them there, but we're getting a lot of work done, like Chris said, to start the year off great. We've been really lucky at Penn-Burnville to have some Eagle Scouts complete their Eagle projects at our school. So I wanted to thank Miles Honecker, who created a checkerboard on our playground. And so he built that at the beginning of this summer, and he got these, game pieces that were keeping inside that the kids can take outside them during recess to play. And also, Balin Honecker, he built picnic tables that are going to go right outside of our kindergarten wing. So 2 projects that are really benefiting our students and staff.
Mr. Charles.
Good evening. Quick update for Caitlin and her baby. Caitlin and her husband Travis welcomed their first baby, Silas, Friday evening. They're home, they're doing well, enjoying their new family. I just know they're enjoying their time together. It's our second week of ESY, and as Ms. Taney just said, the buildings are a little too quiet, so I've been making sure to go over there, see the kids for ESY, sit in the classrooms, and it's just great seeing our teachers in and working with our kids. Our attendance has been great. The kids are engaged, they're motivated. I actually had a parent email me one day saying that their child wasn't going to return, they weren't having fun. It's summer, I don't blame them. A few hours later, they said, oh, never mind, she texted me, she wants to come back, she's having a great time. So it's awesome seeing our teachers still making those relationships with their kids in the summer. Like Mr. Hamrick said earlier, the name of the game for the summer is giving design tools for teachers. So that's what we've been doing for People Services. One item of feedback I've gotten from our teachers is we have almost too many resources from the directors and the previous C and just all the different organizations. So this summer I'm working on a Google website that our staff is going to use. That's going to be their one-stop shop for all their special ed resources, anything from document compliance to instructional tools and strategies. So busy time.
Mr. Brown.
All right. I'm not going to have as many shout-outs. I promise I will in the future with our students. Right now, it's just a few of my soccer guys that I know what they're pursuing, post-secondary after 12. But I will have more updates in the future. My shout-outs that I really want to give, first off, is to my fellow administrators, because going through this process of starting and really kind of from the ground up building this new position, there's been some challenges, and they've helped me a ton along the way, so thank all of you. And I want to give a shout out specifically to Mary Snyder and Amy Miller, because the 2 of them are 2 of the many unsung heroes that we have working in our school district, and they have just been absolutely phenomenal, helping me out because they've been in the trenches for years, and they're just fantastic. So kudos to them. Outside of that, just a few updates on what I've been doing the past few weeks since I've started. It's been a lot of conversations and meetings. Goal of mine was meeting with all of my head coaches to go over kind of my vision and plan for the future when it comes to athletics, reaching out to our youth organizations as well in terms of the athletic side. I reached out and spoken with the soccer, baseball, basketball, softball as well. And it's just the start of it. I want to keep doing those throughout the rest of this summer and beginning of the school year and fall season. Along with that, being in touch with our boosters, I'm meeting with them on next Thursday, the 27th, I've met with, I've met with one of our elementary principals, just because part of this I want to be a resource and help with community relations on that level, because I'm a big believer in grassroots, not just for athletics, but developing Trojans across the board. And I'm going to be meeting with Andrew in Bethel on Thursday as well. So meetings, but it's important. I want to get my face out there, and that's basically where I'm at right now. Thanks.
Nobody wants to hear from me again. So, Dennis and I have spent a good deal of time kind of laying out the groundwork for next year's professional learning, but we want to recognize Eileen and Jen, our instructional coaches, and Nikki Carlick and Tammy Rigger, our new math coaches. They've been putting in a good deal of time with us working on our STAR implementation and our fractal implementation, planning with the administrative team across the board for rolling that out at the beginning of the year in a very intentional and slow but steady roll over the course of that first month. So kudos to them. And I also wanted to just mention that the administrative team has letters that we wanted to deliver to each of you on the way out. So before you leave, you can just hand you a letter before we're done.
Mr. Quirk or Mr. Shirk, do you have anything to add?
I can echo what David said. Sarah's doing a fantastic job. A lot of moves. So to begin the summer off, actually everyone from Bethel and from Bill came up and helped the high school crew move all the stuff out from the basement. So very thankful to them for being flexible, work all together. Going through the abatement, we're right on track at this point with the asbestos abatement, so we should be pretty cool there. A lot of dust cleaning up, but Jody and the crew are doing a great job there. Maintenance-wise, Paul's doing a fantastic job with our summer maintenance stuff, and then Kyle Dennis now, he's been working on other projects as well. Alan's keeping up with grass, which is growing now, fortunately. Fortunately and unfortunately, I guess you know. And then Dennis and Kyle have been helping with other projects, lighting at Bethel, getting that done, and the library is something a big project, so we're working on getting those done. Thank you to all staff and crew, and to technology, sorry. My former role, Sean's acting, getting all the laptops ready to go, so they're about halfway done with the student laptops. They're in a very good spot. We should be ready to rock and roll.
Just a question on abatement.
Yeah.
The ceilings, are we going to tarp them to help with the heat this winter, or are they going to stay open, or?
Let's stay open. Yeah, the plan was to stay open.
The stuff hanging, will be starting them, won't they?
Yeah, the hope was that they would start the piping already, and it was easier for them to just get up to the ceiling and start.
Not hope they're starting a new project first, or the new schools.
So they're going from the existing boiler room and running stuff out, basically the junior high from the middle school right now. And then also our electrical has to stay up where it currently is, so we'll have to be running out of there as well. So they will be running a lot of stuff, because they have to go all the way in that corner to the sink for the stuff.
So you asked them about the oil, what they thought the oil adjustment would be?
We have not, but
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that. I don't know that they could even
Guesstimate.
guesstimate it.
Okay.
I know we said it's probably could go up, but.
Yeah, substantially.
Yeah.
I want to correct myself. Dr. Matt, not Dr. Quirk. Yeah, there you go.
The only thing I would add is we spent, as an admin team, a lot of time intentionally listening to and engaging teachers and support staff and working collaboratively to kind of get some ideas of where our strengths are and where we want to go. Because a lot of what you heard Dr. Matt and I talk about is forward thinking, forward progress, having a vision, and not just being reactionary. So we've been doing a lot of work throughout the summer, kind of getting things ready and just for rollout, but intentional rollout so that we're not overwhelming our staff. And it truly has been, I think from Aaron's involvement to everyone in this room, it's been a team effort with teachers, admin, support staff, just trying to make sure that we are being forward thinking and progressive in what we do and not be dictated by different acts and laws. So I'm pretty excited to start seeing the rollout of these when kids get back in the building.
Does anybody have any old business?
And just a question, did we figure out where the bus parking lot's gonna be for the start of school year? Between like the company being bought out and all that stuff?
Next door.
Pile of erosion mulch ready to get started out there.
Is that for your border or?
Yeah.
Okay. So you might have it done by the start of school? And how about the fuel tanks and all that sort of stuff? Is that in plan?
We haven't done any full things yet.
So what's your plan for fueling the buses and?
But the plan is going to continue to, they're using the Sunoco's at this point,
Okay.
but once we decide where the tank should go, we can get that. Matt and I will work on that.
Gotcha.
I have something for old business. I distributed a flyer to Andy to get out to our homeschoolers, families, the Breersburg Lions Club Park, community center, whatever you want to call that area, is progressing forward. They are having a open house night. I don't remember the date. 22nd. I think.
26th, Wednesday the 26th,
When?
from 5 to 6:30.
For anyone interested in putting any input in, I think Trevor might be good for you to be there, to stop by that evening, because they are looking for, input on how to put youth fields and stuff to try and distribute some of that weight that seems to be hinged on the Burnville end of the district.
Is that in the Lions Club?
Yeah, the Lions Club actually turned the property over to the township.
Oh.
Probably about 2 years ago, and the township, was it just this past year? And the township is pursuing some open grounds grants, because they had some land next to it to try and bring things up to useful for the community. I think it's actually a Bethel joint type of thing.
Right.
I believe so.
Is it Bethel and Tulpehocken, or there was some, so Bethel has a rec committee, and I thought Tulpehocken Township and Marion Township, which doesn't necessarily make sense because it's two different school districts, but I think they were running a joint,
Was that?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, they were on
recreational type committee to
I haven't heard
some of
anything
that stuff,
about
but
Marion with this one, but they were colluding with Bethel. So
A couple years
the way-
ago.
The way it sounded.
Bethel, Marion, and Tulpehocken were creating a comprehensive rec program or a plan. They've gotten some grant money, full resources. Bethel would still pursue what they were doing, but it was how can they unite kind of their efforts together, if you will. Coordinate.
Coordinate to hit all areas and be better.
And the school is kind of pulled in that to also understand what facilities we have.
Those would be fields that the club level can use before they get into, so they can develop their skills.
I think it actually would be anybody.
We went, what was the date of that?
26th.
26th?
Yeah.
Okay.
I emailed you the flyer.
Oh, thank you.
Any new business?
One thing I just want to say is just a thank you to the board, to the community for a major investment in education tonight. I think in 2015, when I was hired, I was told that the construction project will be happening any day soon. The plan is in place. I think in 2017, there was a feasibility study done. At that point, there were plans or rough sketches put in place, and it was kind of shelved. In 2019, we started this process. COVID hit, got shelved. So this has been a many decades plus process in the making, and tonight we made it happen. So I just want to thank everybody, because it's not just this group of people, but it's also everybody out there that supports that number of $74 million is not an easy pill to swallow, but I think with the fiscal responsibility and restraint that our district has, that we've been able to do something that most districts can't say, that they've been able to reduce taxes and undertake a major renovation project and be able to do a lot of projects and be able to invest. Last month, we invested again in staff, our greatest asset. And I think, I just want to say thank you to the board for everything that you guys continue to do and support as we move the district forward. Thank you.
Stole my thunder there, Dr.
Oh, sorry.
That's where I was going to go with it. But you said 2015. I was in high school in 2002, hearing of the high school side of the renovation coming after they built the junior high addition. And some small renovations came, but nothing real improvement. But,
We didn't have any money back then.
but they still talked about it. It was still
All
happening.
they knew how to do in 2002 was raise taxes.
But it is very impressive to see where we came from and where we are today. And it's all for one thing, our students. And that's this community's greatest asset is our students, because they are our future. And, we just made the biggest investment in district history tonight for our students. And we lowered taxes. I mean, them are just two things that you don't see anywhere else. And it's as Trevor would say, it's a great day to be a Trojan. It truly is. So thank you to everybody and the community for supporting us in that endeavor. Any citizens wishing to address the board this evening?